How does a Dorado fish know it has to travel 7,000 kilometers to find a better environment with more food and ideal conditions to thrive? It's a journey guided by an instinctual, seemingly programmed knowledge, a biological directive embedded deep within its DNA. Now think about a human. Imagine someone migrating from a poor country to a richer one in search of a better life, for better opportunities, to raise their children in a better environment. Are these decisions made freely? Or are we also just following invisible forces like the fish? This raises one of the most complex and debated questions. Do we have free will? Or are we simply programmed by our biology, society, and environment? Philosophers have been grappling with the concept of free will for centuries. On one side, we have free will, the idea that we, as humans, have the ability to make choices independent of external influences. On the other, we have determinism, the belief that every action we take is the result of prior causes. Our genetics, upbringing, culture, and environment. So, which is it? To understand this, let's break it down. Supporters of free will argue that humans have the capacity to make decisions based on rational thought, consciousness, and introspection. For example, Jean-Paul Sartre, a famous existentialist philosopher, argued that existence precedes essence, meaning we are not born with a predefined purpose, but instead have the power to shape our own destiny through our choices. Consider the example of migration. A person moves to a new country seeking a better life, and in doing so, they exercise free will. This act of self-determination allows them to shape their future, giving them agency over their own circumstances. Studies in neuroscience, like those by Benjamin Libet, have shown that the brain initiates actions before we are consciously aware of them, suggesting that our thoughts and actions might not be as free as we think. Does this mean our sense of free will is merely an illusion? Or is there a deeper consciousness at play? On the flip side, determinism suggests that all of our choices are influenced or even dictated by factors beyond our control. According to B.F. Skinner, a well-known behaviorist, we are not free to act as we choose, because our actions are conditioned by the past. Think about the Dorado fish again. The fish is programmed to follow a migratory pattern, driven by instinct, environmental cues, and genetic coding. Can humans be any different? If our choices are shaped by our genetics, upbringing, culture, and social environments, are we really making free decisions, or are we just responding to the stimuli around us? Research in genetics shows that many aspects of our behavior are encoded in our DNA. For example, studies have found genetic links to traits like aggression, addiction, and even tendencies toward criminal behavior. Does this mean that our personalities and actions are simply the result of our genetic programming? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Compatibilism is the theory that free will and determinism are not mutually exclusive. Philosophers like Daniel Dennett argue that we can be free in our decisions, even if those decisions are influenced by biological and environmental factors. For instance, a person moving to a new country may feel compelled by their circumstances, poverty, limited opportunities, but within those constraints, they still have the power to choose their path, make decisions, and shape their future. David Hume, an 18th century philosopher, believed that freedom is nothing but the power to act according to the determinations of the will. This suggests that we are free as long as we can act on our desires, even if those desires are shaped by our biology or environment. Neuroscience plays a crucial role in this debate. Studies show that the brain often makes decisions before we consciously become aware of them. In experiments, people are shown to make decisions, and the brain exhibits activity seconds before the individual consciously recognizes their choice. Does this undermine the idea of free will, suggesting that our choices are predetermined by the brain's unconscious processing? In a famous experiment by Benjamin Libet in the 1980s, participants were asked to move their fingers at will while their brain activity was monitored. It was found that brain activity in the motor cortex occurred several milliseconds before the participants became aware of their intention to move. This raises a huge question. If our brains are making decisions before we consciously choose, do we truly have free will? But what about society? Are we free to choose if we are influenced by the culture and environment around us? Imagine a child born into poverty versus a child born into privilege. While both may have dreams, the opportunities available to them are vastly different. Their environments program their choices in significant ways. A person born into a wealthy family might have the luxury of pursuing a career in the arts, while someone born into poverty might feel forced to prioritize economic survival over personal passion. John Locke, in his theory of the tabula rasa, argued that the human mind is like a blank slate at birth, and all knowledge comes from experience. This means that our decisions are influenced by the experiences we accumulate, which, in turn, are shaped by our environment. So, do we have free will, or are we simply programmed? The answer might not be as clear-cut as we'd like it to be. While our choices may be influenced by genetic factors, environmental conditions, and unconscious brain activity, there is still space for personal agency within these constraints. Perhaps free will isn't about making completely independent decisions, but about navigating through the forces that shape us and still having the power to choose our responses. In the end, just like that Dorado fish following its instincts to find a better life, we may be driven by forces beyond our control, but we still exercise choice in how we respond to those forces. And in that response lies our freedom. As Jean-Paul Sartre once said, freedom is what you do with what's been done to you. And perhaps that is the ultimate essence of free will. Not that we are free from influence, but that we are free to act upon it. If you enjoyed this exploration of free will and our programmed instincts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more thought-provoking content. Join us on this journey at Beyond the Basics, where we dive deep into the mysteries of life, science, and philosophy. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.